So now I want to do the index file, so I'm going to open Notepad++ and open the index file. Now at the moment it's index.php, meaning that it's a server-side script, and I want to change this to be a client-side script, so I need a .html extension. So I'm going to open that to begin with, then I'm going to save a copy of it and put the .html extension on. But I also want to get rid of this index.php and this getPerson.php. I may need them later, but not at the moment. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to delete my two files, index.php and getPerson.php. Right, okay, so now we're dealing with sort of server-side scripting. I know you might think, it's a .php file, so that is server-side, and this is client-side. I'm keeping the server-side scripting on here. You've got to imagine that maybe you're calling a remote website somewhere across the world, and that's where this file lives. But for our purposes, because it's our database, because we're playing around with it, I'm going to keep my server-side stuff here. But I am going to be programming just JavaScript in client-side. So everything that I'm going to be doing will have a .html extension. This is defaulted to Firefox, it should be Google Chrome. If that happens to yours, you can change the file association. I'm not going to bother at the moment because I don't think I'm ever going to open them up just by double clicking on them. So there I've got my index.html and my getData.php. If I run this in my browser, if you watched the last videos, you'll know what's going to happen. If you didn't, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. You will get some boxes on a form that you can fill in and press submit, and it will send it to the file. We don't need these boxes because we're not going to be passing any data. We're just going to have a button called submit. So I'm going to change this program or this HTML to manage that. The first thing I need to do is change the action, and the reason why I've put get data in this folder is so that I don't have to precede this with the actual path to the file. The method I'm going to be using is get, because I'm not actually passing any data. It wouldn't really matter if I was using get or post. In get data, because I'm not reading anything from the URL, I'm not specifying whether it's post or get. So I'm just using a little default method there. The next thing I'm going to do is get rid of all the fields and just leave the button. And that is my formatted HTML file. So if I save that and refresh my browser, there we go, we've just got a button. And when I press the button, and this is the important part, this is synchronous data transfer, unlike what we're trying to do, which is asynchronous. We did asynchronous with Android, where we had two parts. I'll explain shortly, but let's first go into this. So if I press submit, what happens is that I just get the data back. It doesn't pass it back into a program. This is a new page. There's no processing. I can't process this information, and there is no script or code inside this page to handle that information. So what I'm doing there is synchronous. In other words, going from one page to another page. No processing. Now in Android, what we did is that we did it asynchronously, and in Python we did the same sort of thing, but it wasn't explicit, where we could send the data, and the data, all of this data, was returned to the calling program. It didn't appear in a new page. And the way we handled that in Android was we had two methods. We had a doing background method, which worked on a thread and kept working until it received all the data, and when it received all the data, it passed that to another function called post execute, and that post execute is called a callback function. Now that word callback and function is going to be useful for our JavaScript shortly. But this is synchronous and we need it to be asynchronous. So we really haven't got the idea at the moment. And basically we're not doing anything special. I could actually, instead of having the submit button and using this getData.php, I could actually do that as a link. href equals getData.php, and I could also include here any parameters that I was going to pass to it in a get function, in a get request, sorry. So that's my file. I just need a little word for the link. Get the data and then close off the link. So if I save that and then reload my initial web page, we'll see that we've now got a link instead of a button, which I can press the link and it will do exactly the same thing. Okay, and again that's synchronous, not asynchronous. So yeah, this is nice, it works. We can't specify post with this method at all. We can't send any information via a post request, so that's not very good. If you remember, a post request is useful when we're passing information into a database. It prevents things like SQL injection taking place. We haven't got a form. We're not going to put boxes on the screen to capture information, or if we do, we're going to do it in a different method. We're going to use JavaScript, so we're going to use a client-side scripting language in our HTML pages. For all intents and purposes, the user won't know the difference between a JavaScript or a PHP file, but for us it just matters where the actual file is being executed. Is it being executed on the server, which could be remote a long way away, or is it being executed on the client's browser, in the client itself, the browser on their machine? And JavaScript or client-side scripting is the method that we're going to be choosing to do that. So I'm going to move into JavaScript now, do some very basic, simple things just to reproduce what we've done here with a link or a button to be able to produce this synchronously. After that, we're going to take a look at how we can do it asynchronously.